and welcome back to another new edition of Windows on Current Affairs, and today is a very special episode because 27th of September we commemorate 200 years of Egyptology. We're going to talk about that in detail. Also, we're going to talk about how we broke the code of the transcriptions on the walls. I mean, the ancient transcriptions, our history. I mean, all the ancient transcriptions that tell and talk and relate all the events of our history, ancient Egyptian history, and a lot more. Today we're going to be talking about these very interesting things or topics with our dear guest. She's with us here in the studio, Rana Ehab, and Rana Ehab is a heritage researcher and an Egyptologist also. Good evening, Rana. How are you doing? Of course, this is a very special episode because Egypt is commemorating 200 years of Egyptology.
Yes.
So that is quite a good bulk of years.
When we said Egyptology from the beginning, we have to be proud of that because no country in all the world have the same name of their country as a science. Actually, Egypt not just especially because it's Egyptology, have Egyptology science, but also it have another science, it's called Coptology. So if we are talking about the Egyptology,
it is derived from Copts.
Exactly. So when we are talking about the Egyptology and 200 from the time of Jean-Francois Champollion start to break the code of the ancient Egyptian and the ancient civilization in general, from this time we learned a lot of things about the ancient Egyptian people, about their life, about their history. Actually, it's our history, about a lot of legends, also methodology, a lot of things we learned about ancient Egyptian, and we still want to learn more. That doesn't mean that we know all of things being in the ancient Egyptian time. Actually, we have a lot to discover in the future. So I want to add something that people thought that Champollion, who's the one who broke the code of the Rosetta stone, is the one who found that. But actually, this stone was found by a soldier, French soldier called Bouchard, before 23 years approximately from before Champollion start to translate the Rosetta stone, when they are doing things related to the army and related to the French campaign in that time. They are in Rashid, and they found the Rosetta stone in the borders of the ancient castle. And what make people thought this is something could add something to the world, when they found actually three languages on Rosetta stone. So start with Hieroglyphic, and then we have a Demotic and the Greek one.
That's very important. Let me stop with you here. So the Rosetta stone was our first trial to break the code of the ancient transcriptions,
exactly.
The language of ancient Egyptians. Yes. How did they break the code of such transcriptions? I mean, because this is not actually language or grammar. It is just drawings and signals and symbols. It's very, I guess, it could be easy and difficult at the same time.
Exactly. From the beginning, we thought that
is our first stop with the
yes. This is our first time to start to translate the ancient Egyptian language. Before we talk about that, there is something wrong between the people, that the hieroglyphic is the ancient Egyptian language. This is wrong because we have ancient Egyptian language with many scripts inside. So in the ancient Egyptian language, we have hieroglyphic, we have hieratic, and some people mentioned that Demotic is one of them. When I said this is a language, that means it have a grammar.
Each is related to a certain dynasty.
It's a kind of, but actually it's a different script. Like when we are talking about different scripts in Arabic or in English or something like that. For example, if we are in the Arabic language, we have a riqa and we have a naskh. script. And also in the ancient Egyptian language we have the same. Each script of that is using in particular place and using for something special for it. And when we are talking about the hieroglyphic as the sacred language in ancient Egypt, so we found it wrote in the temples and the tombs. When we are talking about the humans, something scary in the ancient Egypt. And if we are talking about the hieratic using for the normal people when they are writing documents, management, something related in at the end of the day, something like that. And also we have the demotic. It's a popular language, like when we are talking classic Arabic and we are talking local Egyptian Arabic,
like the colloquial and the slang.
Exactly.
But at the same time it's the same language, but
the
those
same
are different
language.
dialects.
Exactly, the same language, the same grammar, but the letter itself or the sign itself,
okay.
it's kind of different.
Exactly, but again, let me go back to the ancient transcriptions. I'm talking like other people, the people that you were talking about. I mean, how did they break the code? I mean, they were drawings, just drawings and symbols.
Ancient Egyptian, look what they have around them in their life, and they start to take everything to put in as a letter. For example, if we have an owl, what the sound of the owl, we make the same sound of it when we are talking to each other. A lot of things like that. When I see something related to offering, for example, and it's a table and something, I found this sign and I bought it to describe that I mean a peace, I mean sacrifice, I mean I want to describe my feeling, but the things all the people around me living in my area will understand this sign. But how champions start to break the code of the pharaohs?
That's a very interesting question.
Exactly. When they found the Rosetta stone is written by three languages, I will not mention it as a scripts because it's actually different languages. This is coming from the ancient Egyptian people. They are greeting King Ptolemy V because he's doing a lot of good things in Egypt. So the Egyptian people want to thank the king by their way. So they start with the hieroglyphic because the hieroglyphic is the sacred language in ancient Egypt, and they wrote it by a demotic because this is the popular language. The people walking in the street and those things can understand this. But the last one, it's a Greek because the king of Egypt in that time, he is from the Greek. So champions start to search about the one who can read ancient Greek in the monasteries and in the churches till he found the one, and he started to translate this ancient Greek language. He found the name, but what make him mysterious that in hieroglyphic language or script, he found something like a circle. We call that in Egyptology, it's called the Cartouche. So why this letter actually especially putting in this Cartouche? Champion, during his translate, he found the name of King Ptolemy V. So he thought maybe the name inside this Cartouche could be the name of the king. From this time, Champion started to compare the letter. To make sure that his translate is right, he going to the temple of Cleopatra and the temple of Queen Hatshepsut, and he start to see the similar letters. From this time and from this point, he start to understand the letter, what does that mean, and actually because it's a language and the names in the language never change. So my name in Arabic is Rana, and also be in English and French and German, it will be Rana too. So it's the same in the ancient Egyptian language. So the ancient Egyptian language is not only a sign, it's also have a grammar, have words, have the letter itself have 2 vowels, 3 vowels. It's a history of the language itself.
But how did he break the code of each letter?
It's a start. Actually, it's a start from he know the difference between the name and between the verb and between different kinds of grammar in the ancient Egyptian language. And
Was it written in books or something?
Exactly. We have the most famous one, and the one who's started to work in the ancient Egyptian grammar. It's a gardener. He called a gardener because he is also a gardener, and he started to see what is in the ancient Egyptian life, how the Egyptian people pronunciate the letters. So, for example, we have a letter called ch. So this is normal, and we can find all of these sounds, especially in Upper Egypt. So you live with those people and know how they are talking to each other and how they connect with each other. From this point, Champollion start, and the gardener and all the people who are working in the language start to work to break the code of the ancient Egyptian people. And till this moment we have a great sources and great books about this, but till this moment we have some mysterious words we cannot understand, because the ancient Egyptian time, especially in the time of the Greek, when they found the Greek and the Roman come with their language and their civilization, ancient Egyptian people want to save the language, want to save their civilization, and want to save their secrets, especially when we are talking about the process of mummification. So they start to write the language on the temples and tombs by a secret way. To understand this, we need to understand the thinking of the ancient Egyptian from a long time.
The culture.
Exactly, because it's a secret. So you need to break the code of each letter with each word and see if he mean this or mean this. So we still discover more about the ancient Egyptian language, and as you mentioned in the beginning, each period have its different way of letter, different way of writing things, different grammar too. Like what we have in any language in all the world, we have the classic language and we have nowadays language. Classic language it's kind of hard for us when we learn about it or hear or read or something like that. So it's the same with the ancient Egyptian people.
Actually, it was not that easy, and probably or this could be my second question to you. Are there some dialects or some words or some phrases that until this very moment could not be broken?
Actually, we still use some words from the ancient time till now, from the ancient ancient people, I mean. It's all of them is Arabic words. When for
you
example,
mean Coptic or Arabic?
No, I mean we still use in the Egyptian language, because when we are talking about the Arabic, so that means all the Arabic countries can understand, but actually no one can understand this word, especially this word, except the Egyptian when we are talking about that. So that make the language is kind of special. And I want to say that the hieroglyphs, when we start to translate the hieroglyphs and the ancient Egyptian language, actually it started with German and French and English, but it's very similar and closer to the Arabic, not to the English or French or something like that. So sometimes when we use the translation, we start with the Egyptian Egyptologists, because they can understand the meaning of the people they are lived with, not just like a study or something. So the Egyptian Egyptologists actually is closest and nearest to the Egyptian people, so they can translate it by a good way, by actually what the Egyptian people want to say. Exactly, want to say.
So in other words, are you trying to say that breaking the code would not require an understanding of letters, or an understanding, or the smartest people when it comes to translating letters or symbols or things like that, as much as it is a need of people who are aware of the culture, who are aware of history, aware of the ancient Egyptian traits and how they thought, what they believed in, and their full history, so that he could be able to understand what they mean. It is more of a culture than of a linguistic way.
When we are searching about a language, we want to understand the culture and civilization of the people.
Right.
Because even if we are using, for example, for the Arabic, some words as we are talking the same language, but in country it's meaning something, and in the another country, Arabic country, it's mean different thing. So when we understand the culture, the civilization, it's a very, very important and strong point to can translate and understand the sentence itself. Actually, this is plays a very, very important role. As we said, that maybe the foreign people who start to wrote about the ancient Egyptian civilization, the German and the French, and this is known in all the world. But when Egyptians talk about the same point, it's completely different. Because we understand our culture, we understand our civilization, we know the environment and how the thing is going in our environment. So this is a strong point for us. We said the Egyptology is available for all the people around the world. All the people, even if we are going to the any school in all the world that we are talking about the pyramid, you will find the child can introduce what is the meaning of Egyptology, and we can be proud of that. So Egyptology is not only the pyramids, it's also a civilization, it's also a culture, it's also a way.
It's a science of Egypt history.
Completely. So from this point, when we are break the code and can translate this, we can understand
the culture.
The culture. We can understand how the ancient Egyptian people think in that time. We can also understand and know different science from the ancient way. Like astronomy, like science, mathematics, a lot of things. When we can read the language, we can read the history of the people.
As we all know that the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities already is commemorating today 200 years of Egyptologists and breaking the code of the ancient Egyptian transcriptions and all that. Besides that, also they are launching campaigns to be able to set awareness among citizens about the importance of ancient transcriptions and Egyptian language, our origin, and also about Egyptology, and how important is it to help us know the culture of our origin and the history of our country and all that. And among the different awareness campaigns that were raised by the Ministry of Tourism is a campaign under the title of Know the Treasures of Your Government.
Yes.
We need to focus the light over it, and what type of treasures the Ministry of Tourism meant or were pointing out at, and how important is it that every citizen should be aware of the treasures of his government.
This is
First of all, what are the treasures?
Yes, this is a strong point, and now we are on the right track to our vision, actually, to make all the people who's living in Egypt know everything about their country. I mean, some people say, okay, we know the pyramids, but if you are, for example, from Mania, from Suhag, from any government other in Egypt, you can talk about what you have in your government, because it's actually you have amazing and fabulous treasure. If we are talking about Egypt in general, we cannot find a place without a monument, without a history, without a heritage. So if we are focusing not only on the pyramid or the museums that here in Cairo, we have also to focus on the culture of our place, of your house, your street, all of these things have a great history. So as I mentioned, behind each wall in Egypt, we have a great story. So if we didn't know this story and focus on the main points, actually this is not true. We need to encourage the tourism in all in all Egypt, and the Delta, and the Upper Egypt, and the Middle Egypt, everywhere. So for that reason, the people living there, they have to know what they have in their country, what the treasure, what the story, which is dynasty live in this place before. So this is
to become aware of the history.
Exactly. This is a great thing started from the Ministry of Antiquities, and their page on Facebook. They are doing a great thing actually these days. It's talking about the signs of the hieroglyphs, and what it mean, and how we can pronounce it, and also a story about it. So each day they were doing something different from like that. It's translated in Arabic and in English, and also to know your the country you live in, what you have a story about it. This encourage not only the tourism, but to encourage also the local people who is living in. And we are also have something different in the school's book, how you can write your name in hieroglyphs. This is something easy. Will be funny for the students when they know.
It's very important.
Exactly, and to understand what is these letters. When we come in the museum or any archaeological site, historical place, when I see the letters, I can see this. What is this letter? So this is important, and make people want to learn more about the heritage and about our country, not only the known information, but also we have a lot of information that not talking about too much. Not like what we have in Facebook posts or in the television or something. We have a lot of things that we cannot cover all of them. So you have to read. You want to take the right information from the right source. This is very, very, very important point, because all the people can talk about the Egyptology, but not all the people talk right about the Egyptology. And here is the point, because some people said wrong information. This is sometimes cause some problems, because when we are here in Egypt and when he is in a tour, he said, I read this in some book or in any blog and any kind of social media, and this is wrong. So you have to take the right source. We have a great libraries and great books wrote about the Egyptology, and a great Egyptologists actually here in Egypt. And one of the wrong information, for example, that not the ancient Egyptian who's built the pyramids. This is the famous thing.
But those are rumors. It was not. Waged by Egyptians.
Exactly, because Egyptians,
from outside of Egypt.
Because Egyptians know they can do more than this pyramid.
And that is history. But anyway, we're going to touch on that, and we're going to touch on teaching students how to read the hieroglyphic or the ancient Egyptian letters and language in schools later after this short break, so stay with us. Welcome back, and like we earlier said, that today the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, and together with all Egyptians, we're commemorating 200 years of Egyptology, and also breaking the code of the ancient language or the ancient transcriptions, ancient Egyptian transcriptions, and on top of all, of course, the Rosetta Stone, where they started with. And with us here in the studio live is Rana Ehab. She's a heritage researcher and Egyptologist, and an Egyptologist at the same time. We were talking about a campaign. Is it a campaign, or is it a project, or is it what? A campaign that is an attempt to teach students in schools the hieroglyphic transcriptions and the ancient letters, to be able to understand the language and also write it and read it, so that they can know about the culture and the history easy.
Exactly. What make this things special when people or children stand in front of us and they are starting to say, oh, why especially this letter? What is my letter? Okay, how can I say good morning, good evening? So this make the people near to their civilization, and when they know that they can read or talk like the ancient Egyptian people, they're being more proud of this. And in this time, some people see the history and those subjects as boring. It's actually fantastic because it's a story and all the people loving the story. So when we touch all of these points together, we can tell the people and the children, give them a great awareness about their country, and they have the passion to read, have the passion to learn more about their civilization and their culture and a lot of things. So all the people who is working to teach the children by a volunteering way, to learn them how the ancient Egyptian talk, by games, by something related to their hearts, related to a kind of sports they love. They actually doing a great things in our history, because after they are growing up, they will know the importance of knowing those things, because actually we didn't need anyone tell us about our history or about our civilization. So when he have and know how we can do this from the young age, when he become a responsible man in the future, he can related everything related to his country by by his work. When we are talking about we are the people who's related to 7,000 civilization, we can say that by strong evidence in our hands.
Right, let's go back to of course we know that the Ministry of Tourism and also the Ministry of Culture is keen on holding different exhibitions at the Ancient Egyptian Museum for Civilization, and also to exhibit our civilization, to exhibit our culture, to exhibit a new kind of history and a new kind of monument, which is a little bit different from the regular one that is exhibited in the Egyptian Museum and all that. So tell us about this attempt also by both ministries, and how is it going to look like?
Actually, when we are thinking and doing a new museum, we think by the modern way. We see what the people want on to see what the people want to learn from the museum. Maybe in the old way, we are going to the museum with a tour guide, and he starts to explain this for us. But actually, the museum, it's for you. You can go through the museum and understand the objects by yourself. To facilitate this kind of tours, in the Egyptian Museum of Civilization, actually we're doing a different kind. Like the activities we are doing, it's for free for the Egyptians. Well, different workshop, we learn how to draw like the ancient Egyptian people, how to doing the clothes like ancient Egyptian people, the pottery, a lot of things related to the tradition way of the ancient people. And actually during your walking in the museum, you will find the screen. These screens describe how this thing work. For example, if we have the sonic clock from the ancient Egyptian time, how it's work, what it's done, how the people calculate the time by it. Another thing, we have the chariot of Tutankhamun, and how this chariot is working, how we making the chariots, the wheels, how we defeat the enemies of Egypt by this chariots too. So this is a different thing. It's when we have a masterpiece, you will find the screen in front of this, and you didn't need to read. You can see by a visual way if you want to read, if you want to go to the library. A lot of kinds of how the people want to learn about this stuff actually, or this object especially. When we are talking about the Civilization Museum, also we are talking about the new expressions of the mummies, which is for sure amazing things, and the people visit the place to see the ancient Egyptian kings and queens. So the display itself is completely different, and God willing, in the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum, we'll see different things not found not only in Egypt but in all the world, because our minds now is completely different. Our vision to the future is strong, and we can show this for other people.
Let's go back to the Rosetta Stone, because we as Egyptians, we know the story, but we don't really know it in full detail. But people who haven't heard about Egyptian history and who are keen on visiting Egypt and who are fascinated by the magic and the charm of the ancient Egyptians' history, are very eager to know the story of the Rosetta Stone. When was it discovered and what happened? It was discovered by accident, and after that the Napoleon soldiers, while they were digging, they just stepped into it, and all the story that followed after that, the steps of breaking the code over that piece of stone. What happened? What is the story behind that stone?
I want to say at the beginning, the original Rosetta Stone, it's not in Egypt, it's in the British Museum. We have a replica of it and in the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir. After the entrance, you can find the replica of Rosetta Stone, and the story and the steps, it's taking a lot of time to just break the name of the king, as we mentioned before in the episode. So but we have a hidden stories like the Rosetta Stone. It's actually an stela, which is paired with the king, paired with the high official, to know what this man or this deceased doing in his life. So, but the Rosetta Stone, we have just only not the complete stela, not the complete figures of the people when they are offering, and the king. We have the book. For that reason, when we searching about the Rosetta Stone, we can find the facsimile of the Rosetta Stone, how we imagine the real top of the Rosetta Stone and those things. Before it's going to the British Museum, for sure, it's when they are coming from Rashid, it's called Rosetta Stone, because actually it's found in Rashid city here in Egypt, and they are moving to the Geir Anderson Museum beside the Mosque of Ahmed ibn Tulun, and this is one of our greatest also places to visit. And it's staying there for a kind of time, and it's moved from a place to place until it suddenly become in the British Museum.
Why was it transferred from Egypt?
Actually, we have a mist from the history, because when we have a unique thing in Egypt, it cannot be transferred outside Egypt.
Of course.
So it's by a way of other, it's taken from Egypt.
It was stolen.
Maybe it was stolen because
smuggled, maybe.
Exactly. This is the only story, and this is the clear story we can talk about this. Because it's in Egypt, and it was discovered in Egypt, and it's talking about the Egyptian history and the Egyptian culture in general. So, but suddenly we found that in the British Museum. It's the same way of our another monuments we have in all the world, in the museum of all the world. But because this is coming out from Egypt, before we bought the real rules for these objects and these monuments in general. So after that, people thought that we have only this Rosetta Stone, or we have, this is the only samples for three scripts or three language in the history. But actually we have similar from Rosetta Stone. We are found and located actually in the Egyptian Museum. It's talking also about the, it's the same idea, but it's, all of them have a different kind of stories actually. But we have the same idea, because this is told us that mean the Egyptian people in that time can speak with the three language at least. The people can talk and show themselves, and they holding their culture and their civilization in their hands. They not dismiss the ancient Egyptian language and they are talking by the Greek language, for example. No, they are talking by the language of the ruler, the one who isn't Egyptian, and we are talking about our language too. So here is the point of nationality of the ancient Egyptian people from the old time, and how they actually love their country, love their culture, love their civilization, love their language, and they are holding it for now. And if we are now going in any church or monastery in Egypt, we can find the people is still talking and speak by Coptic. So that means the Gospel and those holy books, it's still in the Coptic. That means we are the same from the early beginning. We are holding in our country, and we loved our country.
Of course, and having Coptic to be the origin, to be our origin, is something that we are really very proud of.
Exactly.
It's
Some people thought the Coptic it's mean just a Christian, but this is wrong, because the Coptic means
exactly.
Egyptian.
I wanted to ask you the question. I wanted you to give us a full definition of what does it mean to be a Coptic, because most of the, I mean, they have their excuses, because Copts means some type or some type of Christianity. So they related to Christianity, but it's not Christianity in Egypt.
Exactly.
Copts is
exactly. Copts
Egypt.
is meaning Egyptian. They are Muslims, or they are Christian. Why we call this Coptic?
Why did we call them Copts?
Where the Coptic
is the
word is
origin?
coming from? Yes, exactly. It's actually when we are looking through the language. By the way, it's coming from we called in the ancient Egypt called in the ancient time Kemet. So Kemet become Gebat, become Kemet, become Qat, till this when arrived to this. So when the Arab opening come to Egypt, they named all the people in Egypt as Coptic. So because they are talking by the Coptic language. So from that time, all the Egyptian called Coptic. After the Islamic opening, we are start to said no, that mean the Coptic is only the Christian, but this is completely wrong, because the Egyptian talking this language in the ancient time, so they said they are Coptic, but all the Egyptians is Coptic people, Muslims or Christians.
Christians. On that note, Rana Ehab, you are a heritage researcher and Egyptologist. Would like to thank you so much for coming to this edition, a very special edition of Windows on Current Affairs, and hope to see you once again and talk about another part of that very, very interesting topic.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, and all the best to you.
Thank you.
And I guess with this we come to the end of this edition of Windows on Current Affairs. Many thanks to all of you. Until we see you again next week, that's a goodbye.